and I've kind of like changed what I'm going to do, so sort of I'll explain a bit about that. I'm just going to do 2 poems, and then I'm going to be joined by Rowena, who will be doing sort of representing kind of what's kind of building up to a bit of a team that we've got, who Rowena always helps me out on the night, and Belinda is someone that has performed at Grrrowls, so I wanted to have someone to represent the kind of stuff that we like to have at Grrrowls. So the first poem I'm going to do is a really old poem now, and it's actually in this book that I self-published before I had a pamphlet published. And I decided to do it because yesterday I took part in the Roundhouse Poetry Slam, and I was a bit disappointed because I didn't get through. And then I sort of went to Facebook to like get some, I guess, some positivity from it, which I luckily did, as some nice poets said nice things to me. And what kind of changed my mind about wanting to do this poem today was that someone sent me a message and said to me, they sort of felt that it was appropriate for them to say that one of the poems that I read the first time that they'd seen me perform kind of allowed them to see how they were treating women as commodities, and changed them from what they said was a womanizer to a feminist. And so I wanted to kind of read the poem that kind of made them think that just because it kind of that's kind of what you want to achieve with this kind of setting, as well as kind of, I don't know, Grrrowls being something where people can kind of come together and kind of feel empowered, I guess. It's also, you know, you want to be able to change people's minds as well in a positive way. So this is called Tick the Box. I will buy a Yorkie bar, let it melt in my mouth and drink milk. Ignore the calories and not stick my fingers down my throat to be sick. I will dream I have a dick. At night in my bed alone, wrapped in Kev Kits and flowers, I will be unattainable. No, I'm not available for you to screw, do what you do, and leave in the gutter like butter wouldn't melt, and any tears I cry are simply for the time I've wasted in my life over those that didn't deserve more than the stir of the spoon in my cup of tea. Because life is short and some people you just don't need. I will drink a cocktail or can of lager and don't want to know you if you judge me on the choice. I will be shy as I am, but you will never take my voice. I will not wear nipple tassels and knickers and call myself burlesque. I will not fuck drunk, low-leech-hold spunk and call myself a feminist. I will not be a naught, or throw myself over the balcony, or drown myself in a river, or have my tongue cut out by some Tyreus. I will not be trapped in the attic, or be called overdramatic, or be told to rest, suffocated by yellow wallpaper until my death. I will not let you put me in a box of what you think female should be. All I know is who I am, and I can only be me. It's a poem that I kind of now view in a sort of way that I can't always express, as it's so old now that I wouldn't normally perform it, but I just kind of wanted to, for the reasons I said. This is a newer one, and it's kind of interesting because I went to the talk earlier that was about the visual and poetry working together, and this was inspired by a piece of live art where a woman put some wool in her vagina, and throughout time threaded it out. And I don't know if anyone heard about that, and it sounds kind of funny to say, but but it caused a bit of controversy, but it actually inspired this poem as well. And this is called The Knitted Womb. They sewed her up, said that this would make her beautiful and pure, that a woman's womb is made for carrying children. They said that God made us this way, forgetting this was meant to be the same God who made the clitoris, only to be shrouded in shame, said to be a thing so dirty and ugly. You could say in the way we are told to pull out hairs from the follicles of our skin with hot wax, or pinch feet until our bones crack, or starve our body. Sorry, just lost my place. Or starve our body so we can please others, mould ourselves into photogenic objects, be hung in a gallery, painted nude. She stuffs wool there, stores it for the day she can unravel it, knit a new beginning. It will show the way she has bled, how she survived. Others had not. Hacked at with glass, scissors, something sharp. They've said this made her a woman, but the age keeps getting lower. The thread runs through the family line, mothers and daughters silenced, taught that this is something of which to be afraid, born wrong. It's time for the stitches to come undone. Cut this entanglement, strands of DNA, a pattern that snags when you try to unpick it. The end is frayed, the bundle of wool birthed anew. Thank you. Moving on to Rowena Knight.
I think I'm going to come out from behind the desk. Sitting behind the desk like, makes me feel like I'm at school, and that's the worst feeling in the world. So I'm going to come in here. That's really impressive that you converted a womanizer. I don't think any of my parents have done that. I mean, there's still time. Do we have any womanizers in the room? Raise your hand. No? Maybe next time. So a lot of my feminist poems are to do with objectification, commodification, the way we view women's bodies and the way we sell them. My first poem is on kind of objectification I feel like we don't look at very often. It's a sort of decorative objectification rather than overtly sexual. And it was inspired by some adverts that you still see on the tube a lot, actually. And it's called Made.com. I ordered a couch with slender legs, soft as a girl, with the feel of an earlobe or peach. The colour of naked, of cream left out, a cat's tongue lapping the light. A couch for buttered sundaes, smooth white wine, for leaving bills to crinkle and yellow. A couch for entertaining Marcia, for her gold legs to unfold and open. Imagine my horror when I tugged free the last piece to find a woman flat-packed at the back, polished and white as a sink. She's hat-stand tall and doesn't say a word. She's quite the thing next to the piano, one arm half raised, as if about to speak. So my next poem is about how women, I think we quite often sexually objectify ourselves without realising it, and it's quite often this kind of very passive, coy, sexual image that we give out. We're not really encouraged in our society to have a really active sexuality that's in a role of power. And something that I've noticed in the poetry scene is that we quite often do this by writing poems about bathing ourselves and like washing in the shower. Like I've been there. I don't know about you guys, but I've been there. I've done it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's interesting. So this is bath poem. She spends an indecent amount of time in the bath, emerging only to write poems about being in the bath. When her fingers turn to soft walnuts, she knows it is time to press them to the keyboard. She has determined the ratio of water to word. There is always bubble bath, of course. She writes of how it pels her breasts. She might even mention the dark triangle of her sex. Her poems don't mention the mould congregating in ceiling corners. She never slits a swatch from her knee while shaving. She is committed to the art of the bath poem. Always naked, always clean, waiting for you like a peach. My last poem is about rape myths. I don't know if you've ever had one of those really annoying arguments with someone about victim blaming, where they say like, oh, but if you're a woman and you go out like late at night and you get drunk, it's like leaving a wallet on the pavement and then expecting someone not to steal it. Or if you're like flirting with a strange man, it's like leaving your house unlocked and then expecting someone not to burgle you, which is like, as well as just not making sense. It's just yet another kind of objectification, like Harlem or the other kinds of objectification. So this is valuables. She used to be a woman with a name that could be shared. Now, she's a wallet, a laptop, a car. She had no idea she was so valuable. He's no more than a thief, with an eye for a cracked window, a lock with its tongue withdrawn. Her story shrinks beneath tucks. They'd shared a bottle of wine, dirty jokes. She was a purse in a back pocket, a door ticking on a breeze. He's at her favourite coffee shop. He takes buses, goes clubbing. She stays in, showers. Her skin tautens to leather. When she unzips her lips, pennies come pouring out. No one will stoop to collect their bad luck.
And now, Belinda.
Hi guys.
Hi.
Hello. Okay, wow.
We've all been expecting to sit in silence all day. It's a shock when people actually want a response.
Just like ignore me. Yeah, so I'm just going to read quickly two poems that some of you hear. And I write mostly about, I was born in Zimbabwe and I came here when I was 12 years old, so I've been here about like 12 years, going to 13 years. So a lot of the work has just been sort of reminiscing on that time, on that part of my life. And also just like this sense of feeling like I almost feel like I don't belong there anymore, even though I do, but just because I haven't been back since. So the first poem I'm going to read just talks about leaving, and it's a Bliss poem after Patricia Smith's poem, Because, and it's called Why Are You Here? Because Mum was a wave that decided to splash out of a country that tried to drown her. Because she was Ariel with her tail stuck in worn fishnet. Because her skin had become a canvas of bruises. Because she was supposed to be an independent woman who needed no help. Because the sun had become so hot that she felt herself dry up. Because 3 kids without a man around is like walking around with a dead fish in your purse. Because each jacaranda had a tinge of lilac that left her heavy with longing. Because anything was better than here, right now. Because Mugabe in it. Because sanctions made people into snakes roped around street corners, lips cracked, skins blacker, waiting to buy 2 loaves of bread. Because to be a teacher was to be an enemy of the state. Because it meant you could now eat air, for man shall not survive on bread alone. Because of potholes in the main roads in Parliament. Because the father of her children didn't understand the meaning of child maintenance, despite holding a PhD. Because war veterans decided to kill white people, because these same white people had never learned displacement, even from the generations of field hands whose hands the land once sat in. Because petrol could only be found in the black market. Because being a teacher means you are definitely qualified to work in a Luton meatpacking factory. Because eternal sunshine is nothing if you have no food in your stomach. Because she didn't know the sun could set before 6 p.m. because she didn't know that working class could be worn as a badge, because she never thought 2 years could make her a stranger from her own children, because there was heat in the kitchen, because she sent for her firstborn, because all my ears could hear was goodbye murmurs and the choppy rattles of suitcase wheels on airport tiles, because the Shona woman's voice was on the tannoy, because she said, final call for the 2030 hours flight 2. So the next one I want to read is called Wind Chat, Dear Wind Chat. It's about a bird, a British bird called the Wind Chat, which migrates to southern and central Africa between sort of May and August. So it leaves one winter year to, almost like kind of like spring, winter, to go to that part of the world, but also in that part of the world around that time it's winter as well. So I wrote a letter to the Wind Chat. Dear Wind Chat, I heard that once the first spark of a British summer starts to rise out of the ashes of spring, you like to fly overseas, over mountains, and sometimes even over the odd desert storm, over the souks of Marrakesh, over the cries of mothers in Kinshasa, on the outskirts of Kinshasa, over the march of armed, barefooted boys who blend themselves in forests to stay alive, over pulsing hives of ever-growing cities, over the hum of generators in case of sudden power cuts, over former colonies that still brim with leftover pain, over red dust roads and broken railways, over beaten-up paths and rolling maize fields, over the laughter of kids playing football in dusty parks, over everything which exists under the sky that covers the trail from Cairo to Cape. It has been 10 years since I left home, and I have forgotten how at dusk the sun slowly sinks into the ground and the sky looks like a still blaze. I have forgotten how the night spreads itself in the folds of a light cold wind. I have forgotten the sound a metal pail tied to thick, long rope makes when it falls into wells swollen with a full night's rain. I have forgotten the feel of an early morning, how the eastern horizon would birth the sun till the skies turned violet. As the cockerel spread its wings wider than his wake-up crow, I have forgotten my grandmother's face. Both my grandfathers are now dead, and my first language has started to wilt on my tongue. When I speak to cousins back home, my mouth feels like it's full of the water that dead leaves flailing. I feel like home has forgotten me. I feel like home has forgotten me. Uprooted from one land to be planted in another. The cold has bitten my ears raw, and my hair has started to thin at the edges. Its deep brown colour has shrunk to a dry ash, and this cold island has serrated me down to a rough dullness. I heard that you prefer to sun in the mornings of Savannah winters as you study the light chill of their breeze-pressed brown grass back into hard, cracked earth. Next time, when the first spark of a British summer starts to rise out of the ashes of spring, bring me along with you so I can stop, so I can stop, so I can stop forgetting. Thank you.
So if anyone would like any questions, we've probably got about 5 minutes. If you've got any questions to ask any of us about our poems or about Grrrowls as a whole.
Since it's on my mind as a thing during the day, I've not heard much talk so far during the day about spoken word as a genre, and it was really enjoyable to hear the three of you, and I wondered which, if any of you, would you describe yourselves as spoken word artists, performance poets, just writers? What would your self-description be?
I just call myself a poet. I don't actually find these kinds of categories very helpful. I think they lead to a separation of the page and performance which doesn't actually exist. I mean, if you're reading a poem at the end of the day, you are performing it. So, you know, there isn't any way that you could read it without any intonation whatsoever, or without, you know, yourself coming through. So
It would make a statement if you did. If you tried to read a poem with no intonation, that would be a performance in itself because it would
yeah,
be
exactly.
so
But that's what I'm
empty.
saying. That's what I'm saying. I don't
Yeah.
really understand performance poet or page poet or any of those labels. I feel like it's just a way of kind of separating people out and basically trying to make poetry a bit more marketable, which I hate.
I just call myself a writer because I am not like, when I write stuff, I'm like, I'm not really concerned. I'm not always, my mind is not about on the performance just as of yet. I'm thinking about how the words are going to look on the page. Do I like where it's going, where it's flowing, how does it match the tone of the poem, and all the other stuff in terms of performance comes after. People can call me whatever they want, I don't really mind, I don't call it everything, I don't call it wordsmith. I really hate words. Anyway, yeah, I've had to message people like, can you not call me wordsmith? But also then I rarely police what labels people want to put on the work I do. But myself, I call myself a writer because also when I first started writing, I didn't start writing. I'm gonna just write poetry. Just so happens now I write mostly poetry. Actually, I was writing because I wanted to write stories. I wanted to write non-fiction. I mean, I still do and I do, so just write.
Yeah, I agree. I kind of do the same thing. It's interesting though because in terms of it being sort of a marketing tool, I guess I have a website and I write a kind of definition of what I am in that, but I kind of use 3 terms, writer, poet, performer, but I kind of avoid the performance poetry or spoken word artist label, but I'm kind of more than happy to if other people just kind of label me as that for whatever reason, then I wouldn't reject it, but I would never refer to myself necessarily in that way.
Thank you for that question.
It's a good one.
Yeah, really good.
Does anybody else have any different take on that concept? Just wondering if any.
I think the term spoken word artist can be quite racialized sometimes. You know, you are a black poet or poet of colour, you can like